All right. So this is Band of Blades, looks like episode 17. Um, if I'm doing that correctly. Yes. Uh, Last session, you guys wrapped up your business in Talgon Forest. Dealt with some fallout of having the Lunar Crown and uh yeah, just wrapping up your business there and deciding it's time to move on to Fort Calisco, only to discover that while you have been dealing uh with Breaker and her nonsense and avoiding her in the forest and turning the forest assets against her, uh Render this whole time has been moving south along the open plains and has gotten ahead of the Legion and is currently laying siege to Fort Calisco. Um Now, a little word about Fort Calisco. A lot of times when we use the word fort, we imagine just sort of like wooden palisades and kind of small. This is not that. This is a keep. Actually, if you look at the boop boop this image behind me, sort of that idea. It is more of a strategic location with a keep and a hold fast, uh, and a wall defending an inner area around that. It is a very strategically important location, which is why you can't just be like, well, why don't we just go around Fort Calisco? Um, it is also a it is the linchpin to the sort of eastern chunk of Aldermark. So it is quite important, and it is virtually impossible to circumnavigate. Or if you could, then they could too. So you have to get through this wall effectively, and the way to do that is essentially a two-pronged attack. You have to lift the siege, and the best way to lift the siege is to attack a strategically vulnerable target. One has been identified. There's a siege weapon um, that if you launch an attack on it, the idea is the undead forces will then react, moving in that direction, and the Legion will be able to slip through the gap and go into Fort Calisco through a side gate. Uh, while you are launching your little sabotage, the Horned One is going to be squaring off against Render himself. Um, Maybe not the most strategically smart move, but it's all you got. Uh, I am a little curious though, like what do we think the Horned One's approach is here? Is it just to shapeshift into a giant fucking monster and go to town? Um, is it uh to perhaps, I don't know, shapeshift into something winged and try and force him into a disadvantageous location or a engagement? But if that's the case, then he has ballista that could shoot her down too. So does she try and like single him out and be like, hey, you and me, we're gonna duel? Uh, what do we think that her approach would be? Or does she, instead of trying to tackle the problem head on, does she just try and do little things, shapeshift into, a vole, and just, do the sort of ants in the pants strategy where she just tries to annoy him, stay out of his line of sight, but just be a nuisance and an annoyance that he can't ignore? Does she ask for assets from the rest of the Legion?
I don't feel like she would.
I think given that she's still hurt, I feel like maybe shapeshifting in something
Hmm.
quick and like you say, like just getting like being distraction, like getting attention on her and maybe like destroying like just enough things here. Or even if it's just like the morale thing, right? Like if you get the Hornet one down, like I imagine like for ego, for like the undead, like that's what you want, right? But she's going to be like quick and distracting while
Mhm.
we like kind of like a for Frodo moment, but like not as head on, but like that's the intent. Like I'll keep the real bad guys focused on me while y'all try to get this ballista down or like this siege weapon down.
Was thinking like shape shifting into like a bug and rallying a swarm of locusts kind of annoying, or like you said, a vole or like a mole and digging holes under the feet of siege engines or something like this that's disruptive but not immediately engaging.
Okay,
I like
cool.
that. That seems kind of her
That,
speed.
Yeah,
yeah, that seems
perfect.
her style. The reason I say this is because there's a timer to this mission. Um, it might not be a hard fail timer, but her ability to distract render is only so long as she can physically sustain being able to do so. Um, Render fights as a threat five opponent, meaning he'll be rolling five dice and will take the best of, and that'll count against her clock. When that clock is full, she is out of the fight. She is going to withdraw. She's too valuable to fight to the death here. Um, but Render is also potent in melee. So in a direct straight up fight, potency means that he will add one tick to the clock regardless of whatever he rolls. So on a six, which is not impossible on five dice, but you know, could very well happen, that's going to fill up half her clock. If the goal is to have her try and stay away from him but be a nuisance, that might negate his potency for at least maybe the first round. But sooner or later, she is probably going to have to commit. Or Render will just realize what's going on and ignore her. So I'll say for this first round, she will ignore his potency, but after that, it's going to start getting real. Um, you guys, however, we did all of our engagement role stuff, and if I remember correctly, intel was spent and horses were provided. Were those regular horses or were those fire mains? I don't remember.
Fire mains are all we have right now.
Yep.
So
Okay, so fire mains. The squad will be riding fire mains. Um, cool. And we had the engagement roll. The engagement roll was four, so you start in a risky position. And what I think this looks like is so you've identified this siege weapon. You haven't gotten eyes on yet, but it is something large and experimental that Render has been working on. You can see like the fires of this these plumes of forge fire just sort of like rolling up into the sky. Um there is between you and there, the first obstacle that you guys have is everyone's favorite, the gap. There is a bridge over, a ravine, uh, a tactically sufficient ravine to be an obstacle to which a bridge was built over between you and they. Uh, the situation that makes it risky is that there are undead positioned in the area, all of whom could see you, raise an alarm, uh, or directly engage. They are sort of in scattered about quantum locations until we need them, until they are important. But you know that they're in the area. In fact, maybe what we open on is we haven't seen them in a long time, but we see a hound, walking on four legs, with a spiked collar around its neck. And we follow this sort of like chain leash up to a black oak knight sitting on horseback. And we see the hound like stop and like sniff, 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 and then go skittering on, and the Black Oak Knight rides on as well. But we see just a quick review. We see our sniper, Grey Stalking Root. We see Adrimir Theonovich, our medic, and Voyis Karayevich, one of our heavies, and the Star Vipers. I don't know. How are you guys concealed? Are you guys just in a forest tree line? Are you behind some rocks in a ditch? Um, Horses were required for this mission, so you have them. Um, but yeah, where do we see you guys when we zoom in?
I would
Also,
defer to the sniper, I think, on that one.
Yeah, I think moving up slowly among the rocks, just in neutral colored cloaks and whatnot, just slow and cautious, but with purpose.
yeah, awesome. And I think what we hear to begin with is just this like this murder of crows just all of a sudden go flooding up to the sky in the distance, and you look back and see that there is uh I don't know, how would you know that the battle between uh oh, it was the cloud of locusts. Yeah, I think you see this like this cloud of this, from your perspective, from your distance, it is just this sort of like dotty cloud moving from the forest and sort of descending onto an encampment over a hill, so you can't really exactly see what's going on. But I'm going to do a quick little roll. We're going to see how this fight begins between Render and the Horned One. So slash R 5d6. Keep one. Uh, and there it is. So that is a 6. Horned One. Nope, not random side. 3 marks on that clock. And how does she do? 4d6, 1. She also gets 3 marks on Render's clock, in case that becomes important at some point in time. So yeah, what I think you guys hear or see is just shouts from the undead. Uh and I think just a gout of flame comes up from over the hill, and just a giant chunk of this locust cloud just falls out of the sky. Um there are a couple different ways you can negotiate this gap that I can see off the top of my head. You can mount up, try and ride through, and just essentially crush through, get to the siege engine's location. You could probably maybe scout around for a quieter approach. Um, you could try and maybe rig up a solution to go under the bridge and cross the ravine a different way. Um, or maybe there are things that I can't imagine and you guys can come up with. But that is your first obstacle, is the gap.
What do we think about going under? That sounds pretty fun.
I think they wouldn't expect us to not use a bridge properly.
Yeah.
Sounding like a maneuver. How many of you are in heavy gear?
I believe I did mark that.
In normal.
Normal.
I mean, you have a heavy who
Yeah,
uh
fully. I marked heavy equipment, heavy load. I'm also on a horse though.
As
that
we
is
all
also
are.
That is
true.
true. Yeah.
So I assume that as long as we're on horses, the horse can carry. I mean, I don't think it would be quiet, but we are on a battlefield, so I don't think that sound is our problem.
Hmm.
Not necessarily, but for now you haven't been discovered.
Hmm.
If that were to
Yeah.
change, you know, then the challenge could change as well. Um, that's the other question. If you're going underneath a bridge, how are you getting the horses across? If the goal was to like do the sort of Spider-Man underneath the bridge, which is what I immediately imagined, but
Hmm.
maybe you were thinking something else. Horses unfortunately can't do the Spider-Man climb.
True.
I guess you could leave them, but
Maybe
that's
firemains can.
Uh,
Maybe they have sticky
turn on.
hooves.
I mean, something about glue could come into play here.
that seems
Not the
unnecessarily
fire.
cruel for horses.
No, I mean, like, these ones don't even need anything. They're already gluey.
Yeah.
Already gluey. It's just how they're born.
Exactly.
It's up to Azure soaring wind. We'd take the straight path, fastest route. They're gonna see us one way or the other, so we have to fight through, we fight through.
I mean, we can also split up, like semi-split up. Like some could go under, some could go over, or
We could set the horses off as a distraction, like have them ride and then go where they're not.
And then we've lost the horses
And
and
then we
gained
lost
what?
the horses and gained nothing.
fuck them horses.
I just shoot things. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if it works, if they're distracted, then maybe it does work.
I'll give you a few more props to interact with, just in case. What makes this a little bit risky is that like the far side of the ravine, there is a hastily slapped together watchtower.
Hmm.
Call it maybe 20 feet high. And up there you see a black oak knight just sort of, keeping watch. Um, There could also be, yeah, that might be it for now. Um,
Yeah. Could even, set the horses off over the bridge and then we'll meet them on the other side after they've done their job. But I do like the idea of picking off the guy first.
Yeah, if there's one watch guy, just
Yeah.
quietly kill him and then go just over the bridge.
sure. Um, Sounds like a snipe check from our sniper.
Yeah, I would be into that.
Or a shoot check from our sniper, a shoot action. These are not checks. Oh my
Yeah,
God, terminology.
different game.
Cool. So what are you afraid of going wrong here? Uh, I think obvious thing is your gun makes a lot of noise and gives away that there is an attack coming.
Mhm.
Um, there might be more people here that you haven't seen. You obviously have eyes on the sentry, but I think there. You are not in the forest. You are in sort of like rolling hills, but there might also be, copses of trees
Right.
and things like that. So there might be an undead patrol that you currently don't have eyes on. Is another thing I think could see going wrong. Do you have any other ideas? I like that you miss is not even like
Yeah,
didn't
that's
even
not a
occur to
thing.
me. Um,
I mean, maybe we haven't gotten a clear sight on him. Like maybe he is also like one of their like maybe there's a sniper knight up there that is watching for just such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this could all be a ploy. This could all be a trick.
Yeah,
To
could be a trick.
lure you out, to lure you specifically out. Um,
I have caused them some trouble in the past.
yeah. Where do you go to get a sight on this sniper? Do you just like, do the little sort of like war movie like peek out around a rock? Do you climb to the top of something?
I think I want to like get a bit away from the bridge itself. So if I am spotted, it's not apparent where that like we are coming across the bridge. Um, so yeah, if there are creeping up on some rocks or an outcropping or something near the edge of the ravine there.
Cool. Yeah. So you are separating also from the rest of the group then, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah. And so then
Cool.
when that goes off, they can make the move.
Awesome. Well, this sounds like uh I think you're in a risky position still,
Yeah.
because again, because of all the stuff that we've discussed, you haven't really fully scouted this area, so those are the dangers.
Mhm.
Um, this sounds like just standard effect, which is to say you will kill you will headshot uh the sentry.
Mhm.
Um, well, then what does greater effect look like? Uh,
Silently?
Yeah.
sure, maybe yeah, maybe there's a uh
Like instead of like falling off and screaming, like he just falls down
oh yeah. Okay.
cleanly.
All right, I dig that. Yeah. So yeah, I think you're at risky standard then. Given what we've set up and have at stake. Um, and I think just to like add to that, there's like Breaker is moving through Talgon Forest, and wherever Breaker goes, there's that giant storm cloud, that giant, not
Mm.
even storm cloud, storm front. So we could have a dramatically appropriate thunderclap too to like cover the sniper shot. If that's absolutely necessary.
Like
Um,
watch for the flash of lightning and then like fire
yeah,
off and then
yeah. Um, awesome.
sweet.
So yeah, shoot, risky, standard. Uh, they are living, so the black shot
Yeah.
won't do anything. Um, won't change any of this. Uh, you can push for an additional die. You can push for effect. You can, uh, you have your usual suite of things. There are devil's bargains, that we could use. Doesn't seem like anybody's in a position to assist.
Yeah. I think I'll push for another die, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
lower
that's
it.
2 stress.
If I can assist, it'll only cost you 1 stress.
Ooh.
I'm
How?
wondering
Yeah.
if, because I have a fine towering shield and I'm just like shiny and armored up.
Oh,
I'm
that'd be like
wondering if we can kind of use it as like a mirror almost.
yeah.
So
Like
you have like a better vantage point to hide yourself and you're using my shield as, like we're kind of doing the mirror around the corner thing, but with like a very
yeah.
shiny shield.
I love it.
Okay.
Cool. I accept
Normally
that.
I would say that feels more like a setup. Um, but I like the assist here. And just
Or maybe
say,
if it's shiny, maybe like you're on on a different part of the edge there, like using it to like reflect a light into his eyes, so like he's not looking at where I'm shooting
Right.
from.
So he gets like
yeah,
distracted and he's like,
Yeah,
something's moving over there. Yeah, that makes
yeah,
lots of sense.
yeah. Um, yeah, no, I totally buy it. Yeah, go ahead and mark a stress, and I will say that counts as an assist,
awesome.
which means now actually you can't push yourself for an additional. Wait, yeah, you can push yourself for an additional die.
Yes,
Yeah,
it'll just cost you 1 stress. Wait, what the move says? When you protect a squad mate, blah blah blah. When you assist someone, their pushes only cost 1 stress.
cool.
Yes,
No,
and yeah, I believe you can assist and push yourself for an additional die. So
cool. That sounds like risky standard with 5 dice,
damn,
which is pretty good. Let's see.
that is pretty good.
Whew, got a 4.
Wow.
His
On that
dice was a
last die
4.
as well.
Whew.
Woof.
Tough shot. Tough shot.
I have definitely seen like 1-1-1-1-3 before,
Oh yeah.
so it's awesome.
Whew.
Uh yeah. So I'll take the fiction here. You shoot him. And I think it is as you described. It is he goes down, but he goes down giving that wonderfully joyful Wilhelm scream.
Hmm.
Um maybe not a Wilhelm. He's only falling 2 stories. It's not like a pit of inevitable doom that he's falling into, but he makes a yelp as he goes down. And yeah, and so I think the base is going to go on alert. Um,
Does that push us to desperate? Maybe.
no, but I think it's going to change the fiction of the next chunk of the mission. Um, yeah, and how uh Ben and Ben, what do you see that reflects that like this I guess I should describe probably the building that you're going to. It's not a pole barn, but it is just like a ramshackle sort of structure about the size of an aircraft hangar. It is not small, but it is also open topped because, like I said, you saw these like forge fires, uh, like 3 or 4 just columns of black tar smoke, just like churning out of it like it's a factory, but it's a little too small to be like. I mean, this is also dark fantasy, but it's magical dark fantasy. So it's not a foundry, but it is definitely a place where industry is happening. But I'm curious from the two of you, like, what do you see that tells you that, like, what do you see or hear, I guess, or otherwise sense that tells you that the cry was heard and this base is now going into high alert.
At the risk of making things more difficult for ourselves, I think almost immediately we see the big gate being lowered over the front doors.
Mm.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think before, like moments before the gate lowers, it's almost immediate, but there's like a couple of torches that are lit sort of on the perimeter to sort of signal that they're on high alert.
Mhm.
A ring, a perimeter.
So what do you mean your hats? Is
Sorry,
this an insult?
that was a silly Indiana Jones joke when
Uh,
like the thing goes down really
oh, got it,
slowly
got
and
it,
he
got it.
goes under and like grabs his
Oh,
hands.
no, I see like if I'm understanding that correctly, like the gate is closing, you don't have a chance to get through it. It's just
Oh,
gonna
okay.
shut. You guys now
All
have to
right.
find a different route inside of it.
Okay, okay.
Um
I thought it was doing the movie thing of of threatening to slow because they're usually like huge ass gates, so they slow.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
roof is open. That's fine.
Yeah, open roof. The trouble
Easy.
is now the trouble is now the gate is closed. How do you get in? So yeah, we'll speed through the next part. You guys can get back on your horses and ride across the bridge, but you do get up to this facility, or at least you get in visual sight of it. Again, I see it as a sort of uh, uh, open rolling hills. So there's some elevation, some terrain that you can again sort of hide behind. Uh, but this giant gate that the road you're on leading up to, uh, you get in sight of the front door, and by the time you get there, the portcullis or the gate is closed. And this is where we now find you. What is the next step here? I will say there again, the danger here is there are so now your goal is to either blow the door or find an alternative route of ingress to the facility. The danger here is undead patrols. There are hounds, black oak knights in the area. There are gaunt, but gaunt aren't usually typically used on patrol because they're slow as fuck. But there might be gaunt sentries or stationed somewhere.
Not saying we should, but from a blowing the door open perspective, is there description somewhere of grenades or explosive charges? The Grenadier like ability does not specify how many explosive charges. I guess two, because it's two load.
I think the way that I would do it is I would either offer a devil's bargain or use it as a complication to say that you are out of them. You have a dramatically appropriate amount of grenades. Um, a quantum number of grenades, if you will. Uh, but as a consequence, I feel like I can just say like that's it. Your grenades are
I
kaputski.
see. Yeah, yeah. Because it specifies a single grenade or explosive charges, which seems silly that you'd have
Let
just
me
one.
let me see which you are playing Azure Soaring
Yeah.
Wind. Let's read the ability. You can always bring a grenade. Okay, well then that answers that question. Or explosive charges.
And I picked
Uh,
explosive charges because I wanted more of them.
okay. Um, you may always bring a grenade or as part of your light load. Oh, okay, as part of your light load. Interesting. Uh, I'm like, does that? Let me pop into the. That is a soldier skill, right? There might be a expansion here in the.
Yeah, because it wasn't on the list of gear.
That's what I'm wondering is if do you still have to commit the load points to that? Because it does specify like one load or two load.
Okay. Well,
Um, You may always pick one of the above to bring on a mission, but additional instances should be written on the blank utility load lines. So it sounds like you just get those for free, but I'm in the same boat. I'm like, I guess the difference between a grenade and explosive charge is you can throw the grenade,
Mhm.
right.
whereas the explosive charges sound like a thing that you have to set, but
Set.
you get
Yeah.
more of them or they do more damage.
Great.
Um, but yeah,
And
it
that's
sounds
what
like
I
you
got.
get the first ones for free. Um, yeah.
Cool.
Uh, Sorry, that was a big tangent into uh yeah, I don't think there is. Let me check the gear tab. Um doo-doo.
Well, I guess do we want to blow up the door? Should I save these explosive charges? Is that too much of a mess?
I'm wondering. Well, I guess we want to give me the situation. We want to get into the fort, or do we need to like destroy this building to get to where we need to go, or like get through it, or do we want to keep this building somewhat
Yeah,
intact
just
because it's ours?
and just
It
run.
is not yours. It belongs
Okay,
to the undead. I mean it might be a repurposed Aldermani building, but it is certainly under undead control. Your target of opportunity is on the inside of it.
right.
I
And
don't
this,
I don't think
so
you have enough charges to destroy the whole building.
No, yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, that would make the mission rather easy.
because this was, is this like the foundry that you described earlier? Like
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
then
For the maintenance system.
presumably they have like some sort of, I'm thinking like a sewer or like some sort of thing where they like get rid of grossness that's not a gate. So I'm wondering if either we go through there or we said not to be like too Lord of Rings brained, but we basically do like that Helm's Deep moment. Um where we like blow up that part because it's structurally going to be less sound than the main gate probably. And if we're in any luck, then whatever they're doing industry-wise is very flammable.
Yeah, I guess the question is maybe like, do we want to try to maintain the element of surprise until we get to the siege engines?
I don't think well, okay.
Or
So
surprise-ish.
so you're in surprise-ish
Yeah.
territory. Um because again the base is on high alert. That was sort of the consequence.
Yeah.
And in fact I think what you see as you approach is you see a new, like, if I said there were four plumes of smoke before, there is now a fifth plume of black
Mm.
smoke
Hmm.
that starts rising from the inside of this building. um yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to scout, probably.
Yeah, you want to try and like find what Jazzy was suggesting, a sort of like runoff or sewage, the the ever tropish sewage entry.
We're not too proud
Yeah.
to avoid that.
Sure. I mean, uh yeah. There might be such an area. This sounds like a scouting action. Um I think so. Yeah, talking about what you hope to gain here is uh a form of ingress to this place, which that sounds like it would be standard effect.
Mhm.
Um there might be some risks on the inside, though, because again, Foundry, maybe some of the offal, OFFAL, uh is like hot or nuclear or fantasy nuclear or otherwise dangerous to encounter or get close to. Um, the area is on high alert, so I feel like you're in a desperate position unless there are things like who's doing the stalking, or stalking, who's doing the scouting.
Should probably be me. I think I'm a
Um,
mad scout.
yeah, what's talk to me, like, what's your load, and do you have that Panyar ability that
I
lets
do.
you be
Yeah, my
fast and
load is
quiet?
normal, but I am fast and quiet in normal mode.
Fantastic. So yeah, normally I would say this would be a desperate position, but you specifically have invested character traits to make that not. So I think for you, you are in our ever fun and ever lovable risky standard.
Hmm.
Um, unless you can, unless there are other things that you have that you could, justify things outside of that.
No, I think that's
Sounds about right.
probably right.
Is anyone going with you, or is this a solo scouting mission?
If anyone was going with me, no, no one should probably go with me.
Okay,
I
cool.
I think that's all.
And it sounds like you're just going on a walkabout.
Yeah, there's a creep around.
Yeah. Let's talk about what could go wrong here. I think you get intercepted by a patrol.
Hmm.
I think maybe you just take too long and the party, the group, the squad gets stumbled upon by a patrol, is a thing that could happen. Um, in fact, I kind of like that better just because I kind of want to put the rest of the
Yeah,
group in a situation.
yeah.
Maybe like on a 1 to 3, maybe you both get caught up in shenanigans. But also I want to get you guys inside the facility as fast as possible. Combat just slows that stuff down. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah. I think I'm just gonna push again.
Sure.
I got that extra stress to do it, so let's do it.
Again, I don't know if anybody's in a position to assist you before, but I was wrong about that previously. So if folks have thoughts there, but I don't know how you could make
Yeah.
Gray's job easier in this case.
I think I'll just go risky standard.
Risky standard and call it good.
1 bonus die, not 3. There we go. All righty.
Pushing for die and awesome. So you'll do it, but there are consequences. I think the consequences are going to be, again, I just want to get everybody else involved. So I think the consequence here is a patrol is going to, uh, uh, if nothing occurs, the squad will be found. If you want to resist that consequence, you can. You just have to tell me like what you do to either pull the patrol away or
What does it look like when I get there?
I think you tell me. It sounds like let's work together on this rather.
I guess am I in, or did I like find
I think you
tunnel that was-
find it.
Okay.
And I think you find I feel like social contract here. I feel like the goal here was to find that sort of like 5 foot diameter circular concrete or otherwise like tunnel with stuff dripping out of it. Uh and maybe what it is there's a grate on it. And you either like, oh, maybe this is what it is. Yeah. Maybe what it is like you pull everyone over, but somebody has to like cut through the grate to get you guys inside. Maybe that's what the consequence is. And in the amount of time that takes, a patrol is going to, you know, start moving in your area. How does that all sound?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. So consequence here is yeah, the consequence is just that like there's an additional barrier. Effectively, what it means is there's I'm pulling effectively the result to limited instead of standard. So it's there, but now you have an additional thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is where we find everyone. Gray, you found you found this sort of like big enough to climb inside sewer tube. You've I'm assuming you just like went back to get the others then,
Yeah.
And we're like
Or
found
like
it.
Signal or something. Yeah.
And that's when you guys discovered there's a grate on it that has to be cut through, usually probably wreck is the obvious thing here. But there is also a patrol moving down towards you, a patrol of Black Oak Knight and like a couple hounds and like a couple Gaunt as well. So a 5-man squad, 1, 2, and 2, moving in your direction. What's the play?
How big is like the perimeter of this structure?
Aircraft hangar size. So
Okay.
God, big. Not stadium, but yeah, aircraft hangars. So I don't know, call it 250 foot edge to edge for the building. And if we're counting like the outer perimeter of like walk space area, then yeah, we're talking 300 400 feet is like the footprint of this building in the sort of surrounding area. Does that all sound?
Yeah.
We all got the mental picture.
So we've probably only seen the one patrol, but there's probably others as well.
Yes. Yeah. No, based on what you know, probably there might be 5, 6 patrols in the area. There's reinforcements that can be called, and that's not counting anybody that's inside.
Right.
That is, people walking around.
I think I would like to resist that, and I think I will do it by drawing off the patrol, by running in the direction of the patrol, or whatever direction makes sense, and like firing off a shot or getting them to chase me while the rest of them
absolutely. And yeah, I think fictionally this just buys the crew enough time to do the next step without needing to make it an action, right?
Yeah.
Cool. This sounds like a uh it sounds like a prowess resist,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I'll take that. Do I have? I don't. Okay, great. Let's see what happens.
You take one
One
stress.
stress, great. And so I run a distance, fire a shot in the air, and
Yeah, and
go
you
after
might
the assholes.
even you
Yeah.
might even have like that fire main
Oh yeah, yeah,
nearby that you can just like mount up to and ride it through. Um ride it around.
yeah. And at some point,
Uh
I'll circle back and at a dramatically appropriate time join up.
yeah. Um cool. Yeah, you so the crew uh just really quickly, Azure, Adrimir, Voyis, like, I don't need a role here, but just how do you cut through this grate? Think of it as a, again, dark fantasy. So I feel like maybe it's not rebar, maybe it's just like some sort of thick wood, uh, with, holes in it, pockmarked. But how do you smash through or cut through or otherwise like deal with this, deal with this grate? With the time that Gray has bought you.
I mean, I think if none of the officers are stepping up immediately, Azure is really impatient at this point and will pull a trowel from the soldier's kit and just go to town on this thing.
I think you do that for like a moment, and Voyis like puts a hand on your shoulder, like very gently, like pushes you back as if to say, "Stop." He's gonna shove that shield like in the back, stamp on it really hard, and the whole thing just like comes out.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Um, Grey Stalking Root, circle back around and get inside, get with the others, and we see the bunch of you just sort of like scurry inside the tunnels. Um, when you probably do this, maybe like a 50-foot crawl, avoiding the goop and the nasty. This sort of just ash, this river of just like ash slurry or charcoal slurry, or both ash and charcoal. And it's smoky, but we're not gonna worry too much about those things, because when you finally get what you are pretty confident is like underneath the wall, and do the cartoon, push up the grate and like do the little like peek up over the lip. Who's in front? Who's the one who does that maneuver?
I
In
mean,
other words,
Voyis
who's
makes sense, but we haven't heard from Adrimir in a while, so
I don't think Adrimir would be at the front
yeah,
in
yeah,
this
who's in the
one.
front? Who's poking
probably
the
Voyis. He's
Yeah.
he's a in full armor, and he's a heavy, so yeah. That's his job, to be in front and get hit.
Yeah. So I have kind of described this place as a foundry, and it is effectively four walls, um, catwalks around the side, allowing up to a second and in fact a third story. This place is kind of like dug into the ground a little bit, recessed. Um, and we get this sort of like very I guess the best analog here would be like the forges of Isengard or Mordor. I haven't actually watched the second and third movies. Um I know, but
Disconnecting immediately.
uh, I know that like I think it's Isengard has like this very like dark fantasy heavy industry kind of vibe going on, and that's basically what this is, we get I guess let me add a couple more props, and then maybe we'll do like a paint the scene of for this place for, round out additional details. Your target, they call it the Iron Demon. Think of a train engine, no tracks, but it moves on wheels. But take like a steam locomotive engine, make it dark fantasy, run it through the lens of Mordor Isengard. So, black metal plates, more kind of slapdash, very experimental. It's one of a kind. So there's not like, a really codified size to anything, but it is effectively a black iron steam engine locomotive scaled up like 1.5 to 2 times size of what you might normally expect. That fifth column of belching smoke was the engine firing up. Um, it is trailing behind it a single car with, you can't really see it from here, but I'll go ahead and tell you now it's a mortar. Um, and then in the front of the engine, where normally there would be like that circular, like a big giant like light, there's actually a battering ram. This thing is a single, it is a all-in-one Swiss Army knife, fully experimental siege engine in every manner of the word. It is probably, like I said, 1.5 scale, a train engine and a single car. Um, it does not need horses to operate. It runs on, either some form of steam or cinder blood or both. Uh, yeah, what else? I guess paint the scene, like the interior of this space. What are signs that suggest that um I want a totalitarianism vibe, because that's one of the forms of horror of render. But yeah, what gives this space like a big totalitarianism, evil empire kind of vibe?
Whatever kind of religious symbol had been associated with render, the corrupted version of that is stamped all over this device and hanging from banners. It's very 1984.
The undead don't usually wear uniforms, right?
No, usually
I
not.
think a lot of these ones do, bearing that same symbol.
Could even be the black, like that warped sort of black oak
Yeah, yeah,
symbol.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think there's an extremely obvious hierarchy being enforced among the like even among the undead working here. Like there's like four men occasionally like smacking one of them for no reason just because they can.
And I think there is like a very from like the glimpse that we see around, there seems to be like markers or like some of these banners are like also have like words or like a different color underneath them that seems to like indicate like where everything needs to be. And it looks really ordered at first. And then you start to notice that nobody actually like knows where. But it is clear that like asking would be so discouraged and would be met with like such punishment that nobody asks, so nobody actually knows what to do most of the time.
Fantastic. Um, Talking about that strict hierarchy, I agree. I think there's actually like the undead here working on this thing are gaunt, but they are either like a modified gaunt. So they're undead with, metal plates bolted to their bodies. Um, but some of them like have had their chest plates modified to like hold a wrench. And they're probably stamped with like black oak insignia. The religion that Vaism the Shining One belonged to is the living god of the Zemyati. And the interesting thing about the living god, most gods choose one person. The living god of the Zemyati chose nine, I think it was. It was either seven or nine, but he chose multiple times, multiple people. The other interesting thing about chosen of the living god of the Zemyati is that they live on. Most chosen, like the divine forces, like ultimately rip their bodies apart. At a certain point in time, they just their physical corpus can't sustain the divine energies, not to mention the tasks that chosen are often chosen to do are often one-way trips. They're often suicide missions. They're often quite fatal. um the living god, the way that he chooses, when someone is chosen, they are given a task, or they select a task. Think of it like a chivalric, quest. Um, Lysim the Shining One, his chosen task was to kill the Cinder King, which he clearly didn't do. Zora, one of the other possible chosen for this game, her task, I can't remember. I think it was she broke um what is it? The Dar. She broke the country of the Dar. Um that was her task, and then she vanished for like 300 years. Uh so they sort of live on in really curious ways, but they're very hyper focused on their tasks. Now, I don't know what the holy symbol of the living God is, but I do like the idea that it's like some dark or warped or twisted vision of that in a very authoritarian way. But anyways, back to present moment. Um, Voyis is like, you poke your head out. The first thing that you hear is, "Get it moving." And sure enough, the wheels of the Iron Demon begin to start turning, and the Iron Demon begins to move. Um, there is another fail state for this mission, which is the Iron Demon escapes and relocates to a different location. Um, so with that in mind, uh, I'll give you a couple other props. I think there are. So I've described this place as sort of like a medieval foundry. I think there's giant hanging cauldrons, and we see one of them tipping over, and that wonderfully orange molten steel comes pouring out into a decanter, a crucible of some kind. I've told you about there's like three tiers of or two tiers of catwalks to give you like three stories. There's probably a shack at the top of them. In fact, the voice calling out belongs to you see him up at the top, overseeing this whole operation. Is one of Render's lieutenants by the name of Irag the Flayed, former weapon master. He's flayed all of his skin off as a sign of loyalty to Render. And in fact, you see like from his shoulders, there's like two arrows sticking out from like a shoulder, the arm, and then the other side. You see like there's just bullets that have like lodged their way into the flesh of his muscles. Um, and his face has been, fully flayed off. So he's like two face, but one face, and it's not the face that you want it to be. So he's got, the all of like the visible, the white. I don't remember what the tendons there are called, but yeah. He's got that permanent rictus grin as a result. But yeah, he's the one shouting, "Get it moving," and the Iron Demon's going to start moving. What do y'all do?
I have a question. Voice is uh, the Haunter of Voyis. Does she bleed cinder blood?
You mean Elia?
That's the one.
Uh, uh, um, I feel like we've never seen her bleed. Um, what's your research? Yeah,
Two.
I think Jazzy's probably got the key of it there is uh Elia, give me a fortune roll based on your research and I'll give you an answer depending on what you roll. Um a
A
5.
five.
So a couple things. Cinderblood is typically associated with Render's troops. Elia is one of Breaker's. So it's really going to depend more on the body that she's occupying.
Just
Elia,
thinking.
yeah. So Elia herself, there is a way to think of her not as a person or an entity. That is the expression that she presents, but she is more of a living curse. She is not she is the she manifests and she'll like warp the appearance of the person who she occupies, but she herself on a 5, I shouldn't probably shouldn't give all of this information. um yeah, so I think I'll stick to it there. And like once she turns into her form, uh probably not, but I'm also kind of curious, like there's I feel like there's a follow-up question where you were looking for the yes. What were you thinking? Just curiously.
I'm just thinking if there's any reason at all that we could assume there's a path forward to stealing this thing and being able to use it. And that would mean a source for cinder blood. So I'm kind of noodling that out.
So the problem with using this thing is maintenance and long form transportation. Were you to steal it, the two paths that you have going forward to Skydagger Keep are going to make this thing, like I said, the one path, the high path, um like there are parts where carts are going to have to be dismantled for a while and packed along footpaths. The maw is kind of the opposite, where it's a lot of cave dwelling, but very similar. A cave is not exactly the most conducive location to bring a giant train. um so I do not, and even then, like Fort Calisco, getting this thing inside of a gate, I guess maybe, but I don't know if they make gates large enough for this thing to go through. Which is why the entire purpose of the thing was to break down a wall. But if you break down a wall, you now have a breach in your wall, um, which is not particularly what you want when Render's on the other side of it. So I don't think there is really a path forward to keeping this thing. And if the answer even was yes, it would be difficult to maintain it in the long term. Um, does that all sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we steal it, send it into the crowd here at Fort Calisco, and then blow it up.
Um, that could be a thing. You would then be in the middle of it, of a giant crowd of undead, which is maybe not where you want to be.
No, we can just set it in motion, you know?
Oh, do the set it and drive and jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Stick a rock on the gas pedal.
Sure.
But we got to
We
take care of all these undead first, huh?
we could send it into the foundry, like into the machine, and then I don't know. As soon as I think industry, I think everything is flammable. That's like how fantasy industry works, right? Like everything is just highly flammable.
It's
I
already in the
I'm
foundry, so if that's what we want to do, let's just do
yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're in the middle of, and again, I
Mhm.
don't know how industry particularly works. But I am just saying this is a foundry like high industry area. We can pull details or create them as we need. But yeah, I'm assuming there's certainly flammable shit both inside and outside of this train.
Exactly, red barrels. Well, I guess our first step is to so I assume that there's like a squad of people around this thing to start moving it or
They're probably inside.
inside. Okay.
Yeah, it is autonomous, so
Right.
yeah. Yes,
Well, I guess we want to
it is
try and get inside and stop it from moving and getting away, unless people have better ideas.
I think that makes sense. If we're going to try and redirect it, we need to be in control of it, at least temporarily.
We just blow it up with the people inside.
Or that.
Or that.
The problem is getting to it before it moves or while it's moving.
Yeah, we don't have the stealth squad. We have the fight squad.
and it is already moving. It
Mhm.
Right.
is moving at a dramatically appropriate rate to where if you wanted to try to maneuver to get on board, that is an option here. I'll also say that, you do have fire mains. If you wanted to go back out and intercept it, that is probably a thing you could do if you wanted to do the high fantasy horse jump. Um, that is also a thing you could do that would deal with less of the staff inside of the foundry itself. Those are a couple options that spring to my mind, but I'm open to whatever you guys suggest. But that is your next obstacle. Is it sounds like getting on board and taking it out from the inside is probably the main intent.
I would be willing to maneuver just to like hang off the back and set an explosive charge back there.
Pour something flammable into it and set it on fire that way. But yeah, make it go boom.
Either of those sound like good plans.
I mean, we got explosives. Let's use them.
And like Jazzy says, there's probably explosives around. You just have to find out what's. I don't think Cinderblood is flammable because otherwise that would be a big weakness to like things like the Heartless. But I assume there's got to be flammable components, red barrels, yeah, here in the foundry. But
I mean,
Azure Soaring Wind,
I've got oil.
Yep,
Azure
me
Soaring
too.
Wind has, explosives with him. Um, yeah. Just tell me, what action you guys want to do, and we'll figure out what it looks like or what it looks like mechanically.
I think Asher will look to the officers and say, if this goes south, will you have my back?
Of course.
Even if it doesn't.
And let's
You
get them.
you gonna go for it? All right. So yeah, between you and it, there's enough space that this would be a maneuver action.
Okay.
Um, so the way I see the fiction intending is you're going to come up out the vent, or the drain pipe here, make a mad dash for the back car. Um, Now here's the thing, that the back car is just being pulled. Uh, so if you hit it with some explosives, you're not going to stop the train itself. This would be, uh, yeah. What are you hoping to accomplish here?
That'll just make it so it's not towing the people anymore.
There's going to be people inside both the engine and like an engineer, like a siege team operating the mortar itself.
Yeah.
So, think of it as there's effectively at least two teams. There might be a security detachment as well already on board the train.
My hope is if part of it explodes, they'll stop it because it's exploding. They're trying to figure out what's going on before they've left the foundry. Uh,
I would almost think the opposite. If it starts exploding, they're going to want it to go away from the explosions. They're going to try and get it to go farther, away. Um,
I don't know. If I was driving an exploding train, I probably wouldn't drive it faster,
yeah.
but what do I know?
Well, I mean, if the explosion's coming from the back, are you going to try and get around to like the front then, or
Can I do that in one maneuver roll?
uh, I mean, if that's the target of your maneuver, ICU is like coming up from the side. So if you
Yeah.
ran this way instead of there,
I'm not sure like where I'm hitting like where in this space the train is sitting,
uh,
but the
yeah,
middle is enough of a target for me. I'm just thinking I disrupt this thing.
sure, okay. If the goal is disruption, yeah, we can say that you come up from like behind the train, and just run to try and catch onto the mortar car. Um,
That works.
cool. Um, but your ultimate goal is you want them to stop the train moving?
Um, Freak them out, you know? It doesn't really matter exactly what the response is. Whatever gets them to whatever throws off their plan is fine. If it results in a skirmish immediately after, that's fine. If it results in we run around to intercept a damaged train, better than we run around to intercept a totally undamaged train with a mortar on it.
Sure. I'm only mildly concerned because you have the entire train staff, which again, two engineering teams and possibly a security team. You then have the entire foundry team, the entire foundry staff, which are, several Black Oak Knights and Irag the Flayed himself. Um,
So you're saying
yeah,
well, maybe we go out and do this outside.
that would be my recommendation. Um, but yeah, I'm just trying to follow these things through to like a logical course here, a logical conclusion. Um,
Yeah, because I anticipate some chaos in the aftermath of an explosive charge going off, and
mhm.
ideally, if I can maneuver like sneakily enough onto the outside of the train, then I can maneuver back before the explosive goes off.
I mean, if otherwise, like if we just need to buy you time, we could just like fight people and pull them away from them until you explode the thing, right? Like we don't need to necessarily kill everyone inside. We just need to
Right.
buy you time. Just because it seems to me a little bit silly that we did like all this to get inside and then be like, it's like we're out again
Yeah.
to like get our horses and like intercept them outside.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think like as soon as we kind of come out of this grate, like we're seen, right? Like stealth is gone
Yeah.
after that. So
But I
maybe
think
we
we
Yeah,
just,
just sit
yeah,
here
pull them away,
sneakily.
fight to buy you time, and then
I
we
like that a
exploit
lot better.
it.
I guess if you wanted to make this a maneuver, yeah, there's so many eyes in this place that you'd be starting at zero effect. Um, to try and get there if the goal is to get there unseen. Um, but if the others want to do like a little bit of a distraction, yeah, I could buy that a little bit better. Um, let's angle for that route. What is that distraction? Yeah, what is the so we know Azure Soaring Wind's going to try and go for the train itself. Um, what do you guys want to do to try and set up a distraction to help him get there unmolested by enemy forces? Oh, muted.
Does it look like there's anything explosive or something in here that could be shot to take a distraction that way?
Um, this feels like a fortune roll based on research.
Ooh, great.
Um,
Shooting a random barrel seems like fun. That's
Yeah,
video game logic right there.
let's see.
There's smoke plumes going on. Shoot whatever smoke.
There we
yeah, I mean that could be uh well, yeah, theoretically you have to burn stuff to create that black plumage. Charcoal.
double
Okay.
six on a research roll with 0 dots, so that's a 6.
That's insane.
The lowest result, and it's a 6. That's
I
crazy.
love that. Take
Ridiculous.
the lowest result and
Wow.
it's still a 6. Incredible.
Hmm.
So yes, so I've already said I don't think Cinderblood is explosive. I but sure, maybe there are other alchemical compounds. Let's dig into Grey Stalking Root's backstory a little bit.
Mm,
I mean, your Panyar. Uh, did you spend any time in because your rifle is orite,
yeah,
so you have
I've been around. Yeah.
some experience with orite technology and some familiarity with orite technology.
Mm.
Um, I, you tell me, like, what do you see that is explosive in this area? Uh, and if it is just like red barrels, I mean, I'm down with that, but I'm also keen to see like uh if you guys have any good ideas as well.
Have we run into any undead that are like we run at you and blow up kind of guys?
Burned are the closest ones, but they're breakers forces.
Yeah.
Not uh oh, you haven't, but there give me just a second. There's yes, but I don't think I took the ability to invoke them in any mission that I want to. And I think I have to choose that ability to bring them in, but we can maybe see like prototypes of them.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's see. So let me find that ability. So okay, need to do a little explaining here. There's a form of undead in Render's forces that I technically don't have access to called thorns. These are elites made by skewering people killed by Render's troops with metal blades treated with cinder blood. Um, Normally they just kind of do the shambling thing and they just like sort of embrace you. And they're let me share a picture of them so you can see what I'm talking about. Um, do, do, do. So those are thorns. They're in chat, and they do the thing where they come up to you and cuddle and
Hmm.
impale you on the blades that you see pierced entirely through their bodies. There's a variant of these guys called shredders that are remnants of thorns, but they explode when when placed in the proximity of the living. Much similar, they sort of take hound technology. Hounds can, of course, detect the breath of the living. Uh, and so these guys are kind of the same. And when the living get too close to them, they turn into shrapnel bombs, essentially.
Nice.
Um, Now, because of all of this, certain reactivity has to occur between Cinderblood and them. So I think there is a sort of Mentos meets Coke,
Hmm.
sort of situation going on where Cinderblood by itself is not explosive. Cinderblood with this other reagent is. And whatever that reagent is, let's give it, I feel like it should be green, but that's kind of just blighter coded. Um, let's make it like a sort of violet.
Hmm.
So instead of red barrels, these are violet barrels. But when combined with Cinderblood, yeah. Anyways, yes. So you haven't directly encountered them, but there's been talk of these shredders, these exploding undead. Well, they're not even really undead, they're just dead. But because they're mines, they're fantasy mines, these corpses strewn with blades that when the living get close to them, or if they're thrown into if they're like catapulted into groups of living, they turn into shrapnel bombs.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, what do you do with that information? So I feel like that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, that seems like something I could shoot to blow up.
Um, yeah. So there you
uh,
go.
Sounds like a fine distraction.
Um, and yeah, and just for funsies, if you want them to be there, we'll put them in quantum space, but you can find some prototype shredders.
Yeah, yeah,
You
that sounds.
know, three and they look like people that are like squatting with their arms wrapped around their knees, and they're
Hmm.
just like pierced with blades through them
Yep,
everywhere.
yep, yep.
Porcupine style.
Yeah, that can cause some problems.
Um, yeah. What's the play?
Yeah, Azure, you make a run for it. I'll make things go boom.
This does sound like a setup roll.
It does. Yep.
So let's do a setup shoot. Um, bu- 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 I think that puts you at risky standard because I just don't feel like doing the mental math of figuring out what other position you could possibly be in.
Hmm.
Um, if you have other ideas, though, I'm keen to hear it. If you think you'd be in anything other than risky standard.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Alrighty. Risky standard. What you hope to achieve here is you're going to improve Azure's either position or increase his effect,
Hmm.
so long as he benefits from this distraction. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Um, what are you afraid of going wrong here?
Um, there's more of them somewhere I didn't see.
Yeah, that's always a fun one. Um, the sound of your shot is traced
Hmm.
to your location. I can't really put the base on any higher alert other than they
Yeah.
just, yeah, they discover where you're at. Uh, or otherwise it's just ineffective. That might be the only thing that's really truly it's well, those would be the two things at stake is your distraction doesn't do what you hope. You
Right.
draw all eyes to you as Azure starts moving and they right onto Azure.
Hmm.
Um, that all sound fair?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Let's there's devil's bargains on the table. You could push for dice. You could push for effect. Somebody could assist, perhaps. I don't know
Mm.
what assisting would look like. Other than I guess somebody else could take a shot if they have a gun as well.
I think I'll try it with just three. I think it'll be
Okay,
fine.
let's see what we got.
What could go wrong?
I'm actually really scared for this one. Four.
Four.
So you do it.
Just
There's
squeak it by.
consequences. Um, Setup roll consequences are always very interesting. Um, I think you guys are going to get spotted.
Mhm.
Is the consequence I'm going to phone in there? Your shot is heard. Azure's already gone. Azure's already
Yep.
across. So let's get Azure. Your this is a what a maneuver? Are we thinking? Cool. Um,
I think I would like to resist that.
Oh, resist being seen. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
So it's a risk, but we'll give it a shot.
sure.
And maybe that looks like me moving into a different position before shooting, getting away from the group.
Okay. I like that. Um,
Um, Prowess, I guess.
yeah, call it
Yeah.
prowess.
Yeah. Let's see. Cool. One stress.
One stress. Fantastic. Um,
Pushing it.
oof, yeah. Uh, all right. So the group is not sane.
Yeah, so I
Or
crawl over to some crates or something and shoot from there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd love that. Um, Azure, let's talk about your maneuver roll. You would normally start at risky standard. Um, I think if you benefit from this distraction, it sounds like you're in a better position. Like your explosives aren't going to be any better than they were, but there's less of a chance of being seen. So I think this puts you into uh controlled standard.
And
Does
I'm
that
going to trade position
sound
for effect, I think.
okay? Um, put you at risky great. You're in normal load. So I'm not gonna hold that against you. Um, risky great. What does great effect look like here? Uh, like on the one hand, I'm like maybe you take out the engineering team, you take out the maybe you just take out the mortar itself. Your explosive charges hit whatever ammunition they're using for the mortar and the mortar cart just goes. The engine is still a problem itself.
Mhm.
Um
That's a-okay with me.
sure, let's call it then there. Risky. What are you afraid of going wrong here?
Um, I mistimed the explosive charge and blow myself up.
Oh, yeah, okay. Uh gosh, I feel like if that's the case, then we're past risky. Um, let's just say that then,
Almost there.
it's a concussive blast. Um, at risky, it would be level 2 harm. Um, so something about the blast would be like muted, I feel like. Well, actually, no, this is, oh shoot. Um, pause for a second. If this is just the maneuver roll, this isn't even like your wreck. This is just to get you in position to wreck, right? To set the charges? Or
I mean,
are we rolling all of this together?
I don't know if the act of setting a charge is the same as wrecking, because wreck to me reads like wreck a place item with savage force or careful sabotage. I guess this whole thing could be a wreck roll
It could
rather
be, but
than
I feel
yeah.
like the spotlight is on the you getting there. Um, you know, you getting across the floor. Correct me
Then
if
I guess my fears and none of this has to do with the actual explosion itself, because that would come with the wreck. Then
yeah.
my fear would
Um,
simply be not making it to the spot of the train I want
yeah,
to
yeah,
get to.
yeah. And the so yeah, if we're at risky, great. Um, on the other hand, though, yeah, that's the thing is like if it's maneuver, then I'm like, how does your gear apply here? Um, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to turn this into 80 bajillion rolls either. Yeah, let's just roll it all up in the maneuver. Yeah, so we're gonna keep the things as they are. Risky, great. On a success, the great will, you'll take out the entire mortar cart. Um, and yeah, with risky, uh, yeah, you mistime the explosion and you're just gonna take level 2 harm. that all sound fair and kosher?
100%. I'm pushing for a bonus die.
Awesome. Yeah, hit me with the digits. Well, I guess, there might be a devil's bargain, but I don't have any off the top of my head. Um,
If
Actually, wait,
you
if you're
want an
pushing for an
assi
additional die, then you can't do a devil's bargain and push for a die.
if you want an assist, your push will cost you less.
Sure, how does that work? You just will also
Um,
take consequence?
I think so, right? How does a assist?
Yeah, assist is you pay one stress, you give them an additional die, and you just tell me how you are helping. What does that look
Yeah.
like?
Um, since we're still trying to not be seen, can I be assassin screening it by like I've gotten out maybe like when the explosion went off, and basically like, one, two, three guys, they basically like get like a gauntleted hand over their jaw before they can scream and their necks just get snapped as Azure runs past.
I mean, normally I would say yes, but you're a heavy in heavy armor with zero scout.
True.
Um,
Um,
I
silent and
mean,
stealthy does not feel like Voyis's style.
no. Well, then I don't have
intimidation.
anything. Yeah.
Um, does anybody else like I want to say yes because it's a cool ability. Does anybody else have any ideas how Voyis could assist here?
A pep
Um,
talk.
Oh, pep talk.
Yeah, I
Um,
think after the slightly embarrassing moment for Azure at the vent, uh, he was waiting for one of the officers to do this, but he's itching to do something. So
what do you think, Voice? Does that sound?
Yeah, I think it will be short. I think it's just like another hand on your shoulder and just something to the effect of, this is your part now. But not said in like a like pressure way, but in like a this is your part and I know you're gonna do it. Like, we're all here because of our individual talents and this is yours. So you got this. And then probably like gentle push. Like go now.
I'm curious then, like what because you're going to take a point of stress for that. Like, what about this is stressful for Voyis?
Oh, Voice doesn't believe this at all. He's like, we're sending this like twitchy dude who's just been like, I want to blow shit up the whole time. And we're like, also, like, I think it is the fact that this has become a stealth mission that Voice is like, I don't belong here. Like, this
Mm,
isn't, the part that I'm good at, if we've gotten there, things have gotten fucked up, right? So I think it is that knowledge of like how dire it is if Azure doesn't get do what he needs to do, and then like a little bit of like you're very twitchy. I don't like I'm gonna project like full confidence because what else am I gonna do? But I don't buy it for a second.
sure. Go ahead and mark your stress. As you're storing wind, you have the assist. You can push yourself for an additional die, but it's only one stress to do so now.
yep.
And risky, that puts that risky rate.
All right, so that's just one bonus die total, right? Or does the assist give a die also?
The assist gives a die as well.
Okay,
So
so
it's plus
Voice
two.
takes one stress, I take one stress for pushing myself, and so I have
Correct.
two bonus dice.
Yes.
All right, let's go.
It's a great ability. Partial success, you
Wow.
do it, but there are consequences. We talked about harm as a consequence.
Yep.
And yeah. So I think you are going to set off the charges. You're gonna run in there. I imagine the more and more we talk about the scene, the more and more I'm like mentally. At first, I pictured it like a sort of empty floor, but now I'm like, no, there's columns, there's piles of scrap metal, there's piles of blades that they're using to make these thorns, these shatter mines. Um, So I see you as like sort of like running from cover to cover, and popping on this, I imagine a satchel charge, almost looks like a little, parcel. Um, and uh when it explodes, it sets off stuff inside the mortar cart, um, allowing the mortar cart to just, blow, but the explosion is bigger than you thought it would be. And I think you take concussive force, and we just see you go like flying back, bonk into a column. And you're just gonna take like a, level 2 harm, concussed.
Can I resist that?
You can resisting it, but take it down to level 1 harm.
Can I
And that
put
will,
Marcus Shield
and
here?
then
I
yeah, you
can
can.
uh, help you with that one harm too.
Huh? Then maybe I'll just mark the shield and not worry about the stress.
All right, yeah. Um, yeah, your shield takes a brunt of the hit. Take a level 1 harm, just battered and bruised.
All right.
Uh,
At the earliest opportunity, I'll use a tonic to remove that.
Amazing.
awesome. Yeah, and I think you can get back to the group. Well,
I'm hoping some chaos would ensue after that, so I can just sprint as the cloud of smoke sort of
yeah,
fills
yeah.
the area.
Yeah, the trick of it is, as we've described, as was mentioned, everybody here is in uniform, so you do kind of stick out like a sore thumb, but you know, also undead by themselves are idiots. They don't, other than exceptional ones like Elia, they don't think for themselves. Uh, so you go largely undetected, and the Black Oak Knights are busy looking for Grey Stalking Root. So yeah, we, do a little hand waviness, and you get back to the group in general, the group there at their little hidey hole. Um, we should probably go ahead and take a break here. Um, I have 18 past, so let's call it come back at like 25 or so past the hour. All right, I'll see you there. Okay, and we are back. Quick little recap. Far as I can tell, uh the majority, the Star Vipers, Voyis, and Voyis, Adrimir, and now Azure Soaring Wind are still in this sort of very Batman Arkham Asylum, sort of like hiding one layer below the floor level in a sewage area, or runoff, giant pipe, industrial pipe. Grey Stalking Root has left, and in order to provide a distraction, has gone off and is hiding somewhere in this sort of detritus debris of this industrial Mordor style facility, or Isengard style facility. Um, the mortar car has been destroyed, and the main engine is still standing. It is currently hitched now to a bunch of slag and ruin. Um, Irag the Flayed is on site, and I think what we actually see is, as Black Oak Knights are running around and doing the sort of panic thing, we see Irag grab this spear from the wall, and he just goes over the railing, and he falls 2 full stories, and lands there in the middle of the floor, sort of adjacent to the main engine. Um, and he's going to start looking around, because while there is chaos and panic, the fair assumption, I think, is that there is an attack occurring, and his job is to protect uh the engine. And so he's going to start barking orders to the Black Oak Knights, start arranging them into uh uh, uh you know You go check here, you go check there, you put that fire out. Um, yeah. And I think that's kind of where we find ourselves is does that all check out fictionally with where everybody thinks they are? And so your task here now is to destroy the engine or sabotage it or disable it. I think, disabling might be a partial success. Destroying it would be the idea, but your obstacle is Irag the Flayed. Um, I will tell you, Irag is threat four. Engaging him in direct melee with all of his Black Oak Knights here is probably suicide. Um, it would be incredibly difficult to survive that many enemy forces if they were to all unite against you. Um, but maybe there are other ways to deal with it. I leave that to you all. What's the shot?
Or if we can't get through them around.
He is not technically undead, is he?
That's an interesting thing. He is classified as a Black Oak Knight lieutenant, and Black Oak Knights are not undead. However, his note here says render feeds him pure cinder blood, giving him immense strength. Uh, I think for purposes of like Blackshot, he is not undead.
He's alive with all his skin flayed off.
Yes,
But
don't ask me how that works. It's
but
Painfully.
what do I?
magic.
Yep, 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 yep. And I think with the explosion done, Azur's ready to defer to the officers.
Let's have some fun here. Voyis, how do you know Elia is on site?
Um,
Is it just like a flash of red hair?
I don't think it's the hair because I don't know if she changes the bodies that she's in. I feel like
She
that would kind of go against like if she has this curse, this power that she can be like literally anyone, it feels like having such an obvious style would kind of negate that. Because then
So
everybody would be like, this person didn't have bright red hair and now they do. I wonder if something's happened to them.
So actually, that is the way that I understand it. Is
Okay.
effectively what Elia does is she writes her curse on a person or multiple people, and when the body that she is occupying dies, she moves to one of those other people, and they transform into Elia. So she's always recognizable as Elia,
Mm.
but maybe I could be wrong about that. It's
That's fine. I think I misunderstood then. Then yeah, I think that's like what it is, right? Like all this chaos is going on, and then I think like very movie style, we get like a slow motion shot of just like bright red glossy hair, and Voice just kind of doing like the double take of being like purveying the situation and then just being thrown off his game for a second.
And I think to give her some sort of disguise here, she is probably masquerading as a Black Oak Knight, specifically one with a helmet. So maybe there's just like a little peak of like this scarlet hair under the helm. But the Black Oak Knights here on site, or maybe it's a recent transformation. Maybe she just died in a previous form, and she has now, moved into this body recently. Who knows? Um, but she is a skilled infiltrator too. So there's
Yeah.
that. Elia's
Hmm.
on site. What other toys can I give you guys to play with? I don't know.
I think for me, I'm just a bit stuck because if it feels like if we're not in stealth mode, we're kind of dead. But there also is like very limited options that we can still do in stealth. So I'm not sure like what there is for us to do.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I'd love if other people have ideas because I got nothing.
yeah.
I mean, my approach is we doom ourselves, but the other, I don't know, thought I had is, I mean, we maybe already canonized Elia as infiltrated the whole Foundry situation, but I feel like her MO is more distraction than being in the action. What if she's in the sewer behind us and you hear like a song filter up from behind and that
Mm,
snags you back down? And then we're worried about voice.
Oh, interesting. That could be a thing.
But that does take us away from the mission, which is a problem. Um,
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, if it is possible, then I would I would imagine that there is a thing that we can do where we just like do a fight to buy time until the train like goes into the wall and explodes. That's how I was imagining it, but I don't
Yeah.
know if you think like that doesn't work because they're like on the scene.
Uh no, I think very trophy style. I think you can use fighting to accomplish a secondary task. If that is the sort of the idea you're going for is to like buy time for something or someone else to get something accomplished. That I
Yeah,
could
I feel like correct me if like other people don't agree, but I feel like our only way out is kind of in the train, like in the Iron Devil demon at this point. Like if we are in the super heavily protected thing, then they can't hurt us. And that is presumably like a smaller force to deal with because that's just the people inside. So that could be a way to get out of here.
yeah, that sounds right.
And also like stop the thing that we were sent to do.
Hmm.
Maybe there's a hole in the back of the front car now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then yeah, I think the gig is up, I think. There's no more time for stealth, so I think Voyas will just leave. Um and maybe like he will step out first so that, Gray can maybe still stay hidden for a while longer and Adrimir too, if you want that. And I think he'll just start fighting a way to the Iron Demon so Azure and Voyas and the rest can get in. I'll try not to engage the flayed dude, but
Sure. Speaking of no more time, hey, let's check in on the horned one and render and see how they're doing. So we cut over to I think we cut over to like render and we see him like the first explosion goes up in the foundry and he can like kind of see it the plumes of smoke over a hill and he turns and looks over as he's like covered in locusts. And you see him just like sort of like reach up and like squeeze and we just see like dead locusts just like whatever locusts bleed just like sort of coming out between his fingers. Um but as this cloud of locusts coalesces into I don't know what form does the Horned One take for like direct confrontation because she has to face him directly now at this point uh to sort of occupy his attention. What's a strong animal that she would do we think is she going kaiju for him? Sure, fuck it.
I feel like we deserve that.
Yeah. So she becomes this, I feel like it still has to be, she has mastery over beasts. So it has to be something, maybe not fully like 50-foot tall Godzilla. I don't know if she has that quite capability. Um, but yeah, T-Rex size, like a horned T-Rex. Sure, I'll buy that for $1. Because that's just gonna make Render cooler when he fucks her up. So yeah, we see this cloud of locusts coalesce into a basically a Jurassic Park style T-Rex, but it's got horns on it because of course it does. Because the horned one understands branding. Um, and yeah, how does Render so it's 5d6, keep one. Okay. Well, that's a roll.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what?
Wow, that is something else.
that's all right. Roll 20. I fucking see how it goes. All the sixes go to everybody else. But in any case, that is 2 ticks plus potency. So it is still 3 ticks uh on her clock. But how does the horned one do? She's rolling 46, no potency. Oops, I forgot to keep one, but it is 5 high, so she gets 2 ticks on his clock. Pulling it up halfway. Um, Back to Voyis. Uh this feels like a setup roll. Skirmish. Uh, you specifically said you're gonna try and avoid Irag himself, but I think you're still going to engage in people who are above your scale, uh, in terms of numbers.
Mhm.
Um,
I can use Anchor, which allows me to fight as a small group. I can face groups of lesser undead without loss of effect. I don't know if that means
yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah. So you won't lose effect for fighting above your scale here. So you would be, oh, you would normally be. So you do risky standard. It would probably be limited effect because you're fighting above your scale. But your anchor will bring you back to risky standard. Um, yeah, I think we're just at skirmish, risky standard. Actually, it would probably be risky limited because it would probably be zero effect normally, but we're just gonna chase the fiction here and call it risky standard. Skirmish.
I'll. What would Desperate Great look like? Would that like get us in? Or like me and Azure at least, or whoever else is coming with me.
Um, let's say this on a standard on a standard effect, you would have to retreat to sort of like draw them away to buy everyone else. You'll be separated from everybody. They'll have to disable the engine without you. On a great effect, you'll be able to get into the engine itself. Does that sound fair and fun and juicy?
Sure. I'll push to, or I'll change to Desperate Great then.
Cool. Um, sorry, you're risking here. I feel like the easy thing is you are risking just your harm. Harm is the easiest consequence here that I think you're going to suffer. Um, Other than that, uh, anything else that you think could go wrong here?
Um, I mean, I'm thinking of a way to bring Elia back into this.
I should have left her as a devil's bargain, but we were quiet for too long and I wanted to stir the pot, so I threw her in already.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I'll
Uh,
take as a devil's bargain that she gets hurt or I get separated to follow her.
What if
Or
she gets into
like
the engine? because she
What if she
sees
what?
that's where we're going.
Yeah, or she also slips in, yeah.
Oh yeah, as a devil's bargain, easily she gets on board. She goes wherever you are. If you are
Hmm.
forced to retreat, you retreat. If you are get onto the engine, she's going to be on the engine. Um,
I'll take it.
cool. That's your devil's bargain. Yeah, I think we're just going to leave the consequences as harm. We'll just yeah, that's just easy enough. So we are at desperate great. Uh, and I trust you marked your one your anchor. Um,
Yes.
you got your devil's bargain for +1. I
Uh,
if
does
somebody
any
yeah, if somebody wants to assist, they can, but you will share the consequences. So on anything less than a 6, you're also going to be taking uh level 3 harm. Level 4 if you don't have fine armor.
But yeah, I don't think I'm in a position to assist for that.
That's fair. It's a heavy consequence. I'm
Yeah.
very good at resisting though.
And I guess I have grit, which helps with resisting. Maybe
Is
I could help.
this desperate
It is
or
desperate.
I'll help?
Desperate great. Adrimir,
Thank you.
go ahead and mark 1 stress. And how are you helping? I assume you were just in the fray as well, right?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Those Semiotti, they said, fuck it, we're fighting.
They said, "Fuck it, we ball."
Especially with all this corrupted symbol of the living god,
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the living
living
god.
object. Yeah.
they made it personal. They're being rude.
Cool.
Okay, I
Yeah, go ahead and hit me
think
with the
that's
dice.
it. I can't see.
It's a 5 high, so you'll do it, but there are
Okay,
consequences. Um,
roll 20 scrapping out again.
I'm sorry.
I
If there
believe you. Okay.
if there was literally any better option, we'd be using it.
I'll
Um,
probably resist it as soon as roll 20 allows me to roll a dice.
oh,
Come on
I'm
now.
so sorry. Um, yeah, it is going to be uh it's going to be what level 3 harm is what we said.
Mm-hmm.
Uh you can resist with prowess, you can mark armor, and you're in heavy, so you should have 2 marks. Oh, yeah. Uh
Mm-hmm.
you can mark both your heavy and your armor to mark it down by 2, and if you resist, that gets rid of all of it or any combination thereof. But you have
I'll resist, mostly for Adrimir's sake, because yikes. Um, okay.
Adrimir, do
Prowess
you have
resist.
fine armor?
I don't, just regular.
Okay, so you have level 4 harm coming towards you.
I will be resisting.
That will take it down to level 3 harm. Go ahead and roll your prowess resist.
Can I argue, given the fiction that Adrimir is having, can I, because it says if you protect a squad mate, I resist with a +1. So does that mean I can resist the lower a harm for Adrimir as well, or?
Uh, so what you can do is protect is a specific thing.
Mhm.
Um, let me go over to those rules.
Right, so it
Uh,
would be resist for me first and then try to protect.
yeah, and if you protect Adrimir, you take all of the harm for him, which means
Okay.
you would be taking a second level 3 harm.
Oh, hold up. Let me see how this goes first, because it might not be taking any harm.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose to not take harm. If you resist, the harm goes down by 1 level, and we see how much stress it costs. Um,
Right. I guess
and
I think I can just tank all my harm and then resist for Adrimir, unless you want to resist for yourself.
If that goes poorly, I can keep you from dying.
Yeah. Okay, so
you have armor, you
I have
have,
armor, I have a shield.
and you're heavy, so you have a second tick of armor. That's what heavy stands for on your thing. Um,
Right. So I can take 3.
yep.
And I'd
So
still
that
take a level 1 harm.
no, because you took level 3 harm. So if you mark
Hmm.
all three, that goes down to 0. But
Okay.
if you then protect,
Yes.
uh, uh, if you then protect Adrimir, you're going to take his level 4 harm, which for you, because you're in fine armor, is level 3 harm. Uh, which then you are out of things. You just have to resist, which will then take it to level 2. But you
Okay.
have +1 die to resist.
I will do that.
Cool.
Because I have one +1 to resist on desperate actions, and then +1 for the protect, and then the
Cool.
rest of my prowess. Okay.
So yeah, it's a prowess resist with 2 extra dice. Ouch.
Ouch. Okay, I'll still take 3. That's fine.
Yeah, 3 stress.
Well,
Thank
Wow,
you.
dice rollers being real weird today. Um, so you'll
sweet.
take level 2 harm, uh, which I imagine is just battlefield wounds, battle wounds,
Mhm. I think
nondescript cuts and
I
lacerations.
think we see like a scene where to protect Adramir, I kind of have to like I think I'm like fighting someone, and to take like the blow for you, it like glances off the armor and like slips like beneath. But that like makes that the knife or the sword is stuck. So like while they're trying to like jam it out of me, I just like take my sword or take like a dagger and like stab them like right through the eye or something. And then I just leave it in because it's stopping the bleeding. So there's just like a dagger sticking out of his like not quite neck, but like that connecting bit.
At the end of the
Um,
mission, if we survive this, I can get you a tick on that to start the healing. So
Fantastic. That is really one of the true powers of the medic is to just like that's I think really that's what attaché is meant to be used for is you give people healing at the end of missions that are played. Um, but yeah. Uh Fantastic. So this is meant to buy time for Azure Soaring Wind, Grey Stalking Root, uh,
Yeah, it's
and
like
the whole
fighting our way
yeah,
through
yeah.
basically.
Yep. Yep.
So let's call that a setup. I'm gonna need the others, Azure and Gray. I'm gonna need like a maneuver probably from you guys to get from where you are to the train itself to board the engine. Unless you have other ideas.
Do you want to do a group maneuver with Azure leading?
Group maneuver sounds good. Do I have more maneuver than Gray?
You do, yeah.
Okay.
And Gray does
And more
not have the
stress.
stress
More
to
importantly.
to take.
Then absolutely, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Because of this setup, because the whole thing is giving you that. Normally I would say this would start with 0 effect. Trying to get to the train in the middle of a foundry with all of the shit going on. But I'm gonna say the chaos from the explosion will take you up from 0 to limited. The setup action that we just did will take it from limited to uh standard effect. So we're talking risky, standard. Um, yeah, uh,
Okay.
I don't see a reason to deviate off of that. Um, uh, Maneuver. I'm gonna yeah, both of you. If you want to push for an additional die, you can. You're both doing this. The others are occupied, so I don't think there's an assist on the table. Um,
Yeah, I'm just gonna roll with one die.
yeah.
I'll push and roll a 3.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
Ready?
We're looking for a 6. We don't have it. We have a 5. We should have talked about what is at stake before rolling, but I'm bad at this game. Um
I'm getting into
uh
the way, there's
Yeah,
lots of hazards on the
the good
fray.
news
things to do.
yeah, the good news is you succeed. Um I feel like the consequence here is one of the rookies is going to get left behind and die. Um and
They're
just,
all
get
soldiers.
uh these are all soldiers.
Ooh.
Well, guess what? It's still one of them's gonna get left behind and die. You can always resist that if you want.
Yeah, I'll try and
Um,
resist it, I think. Well, wait, that might be a bad idea. Well, I'll resist it and I'll spend grit.
all right. Um, Yeah, so I think I'll take the fiction here. We've got
Mm.
Adrimir and Voyis like doing the back to back, the fighting, the wading through enemies thing. And while they are sort of like fighting in the general direction of the train, the moving train, we see Azure Soaring Wind, we see the Star Vipers like taking a more circuitous route, sort of more curving sort of line. And I think Gray, you link up with them, and we see like the six of you guys go skittering through like shadows and Foundry, and we see this like wonderful, beautiful orange glow as you guys go. And the train is starting to pick up speed. It is now moving at a the speed of a jog, and will only get faster from there. Um, we see Irag pointing at Voyis and Adramir, but not engaging himself yet. Uh, and we see the Azure. You get up. Gray. What makes your Azure? You're going to take one stress, by the way, from Gray rolling a 3.
Right.
Uh, if you have not already.
Okay.
Um, but Gray, what about you? You still succeed. You're going to get there. But what about your getting there? Is stressful for Azure Storing Wind,
I think for what is stressful for Azure? Um,
or I guess Azure. I might want to ask you that question. Like,
yeah.
what about Grey Stalking Root? What about uh, yeah, what about that makes it stressful for you leading this maneuver?
I think maybe it was just really hard to coordinate timing
Mhm.
in terms of Gray sort of sprinting from their hiding spot versus the soldiers. And
Mhm.
maybe the timing wasn't like a tiny bit off, and like Azure was expecting some kind of countdown, but Gray just went, and then Azure had to be like, "Oh, I guess we're going."
Yeah, and as you start running, like I think you get up there, Kole gets up, Zaya gets up, Nazim gets up, and you look back, and Kirish has like tripped and skidded and like landed essentially spread eagle on the ground, and the train's moving. You have the choice to hop on the train and leave Kirish to die, or you can resist and you can
Gray will
grab
resist that one.
what's that?
Gray will resist that one.
For sure, you have the stress to spend.
You know what? We'll see.
I do have a use of grit, which adds two dice
Hmm.
to a resist roll. If it's a prowess resist, that would be 5 dice.
Okay, yeah. If you wanna go for it, go for it.
Sure, call it a
Just
prowess resist.
don't want you to trauma out on this. Okay, prowess resist. I'm spending grit ahead of time, so 5 dice. I forget how to. Okay, there it is.
There you
Okay.
go.
No stress.
Nice.
Yeah, describe I actually I don't know if we need to you grab
Yeah, scoop 'em
Kirish
back
by
up.
the
Yeah.
shirt and just like get up, soldier, and all of you get on. Voice and Adramir, I think you guys you smash the people that you were fighting and break the rest of the distance to get on the train as it rolls out the foundry. um and we find you now on this rolling iron demon, uh you know chugging out into the countryside at the speed of a horse's gallop. uh we on a meta level know that Elia is on board. But I imagine at this point the chaos is such that like we are now reverse Mad Maxing it. You have boarded the train and there are I need to give you guys some form of opposition. I feel like there's at least one Black Oak Knight. Um, and probably some of those Gaunt. present as well. Um, but that might not be where we set the. Well, I guess let's talk about this. Yeah, there's going to be at least one Black Oak Knight, maybe more. There's going to be some Gaunt guarding the engine itself, but it's kind of your fiction to decide like what does destroying the engine look like, or what is the plan for this? You can try and steer it and guide it into some terrain. You can, if you uh I
Into the ravine.
you
There we
could go,
go.
yeah, the ravine would be
Yeah.
great. I think Azure, you still have like a satchel charge left.
Mm.
Yep.
So if you want to just like do the engine, set it, set it in the furnace of the engine and jump, that's also an option. I'm just kind of thinking aloud here, but everyone is on board for this sort of Mad Max fight. What are your guys' thinkings?
I do like the idea of the ravine. That's fun.
I'm like, what? There's no real like, there's no real operate machinery skill here. I'm like, what would that
Let's rig, maybe?
Sounds like rig or
Yeah.
rack.
rig together mechanical solutions, disable, repair, or create mechanisms, disable a trap, pick a lock, build fortification. I don't really, I mean, if we have to,
Use siege weapons is under rec, and it's not using it for its intended purpose, but it is
That is
using a
true.
siege
That's
weapon,
true.
right?
by strict technicality, and I'm a very yes style GM, or at least I try to be. I'll buy Rec here as well. Um,
I don't know. Does anyone have good rig?
Neither.
no.
Yeah.
While we're discussing this in fiction, though, Adrimir will toss another tonic at Azure to deal with that wound.
Oh, thank you. I just
If I'm wait, does that get rid of level one wounds, or does it allow him to ignore wound penalties?
Remove appropriate level 1 harm from any one person
Baru?
under first aid.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
nice.
I was confusing it with the one that's the end of the mission.
Yeah.
The field dressing, I think. Wow.
I can
Medics.
ignore level 1 harm penalties just because I'm tough.
Yeah, I think also your doctor ability lets you spend uses of said doctor ability to let people ignore wound penalties is or for a
Ye-
scene.
Yes. Yep.
Which I think the only person wound penalized right now is Voyis.
Yeah.
Um,
Where are we driving this thing, and what are we doing with it?
I heard Ravine.
I think Ravine sounds awesome.
Ravine sounds fun.
Okay.
I give you guys a fantasy train, and
I'm
I
gonna
see
drive it
what
into a
you
ditch.
and you drive it into a ditch. Um, Amazing. So that's I like Rec for that. Who is going to go for that role? Who's going to go for the Rec?
I think Azure has the best spec, right?
I think that
I think
is
I
that's
only
what
got the one.
I think that's why we brought Azure.
I think that is why we brought Azure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Um,
We're going all in on this then.
well, yes, the trouble is first you have to get to the controls.
Yeah.
And as I said, you have a squad. You have functionally a squad. You have a Black Oak Knight and supporting Gaunt, a nebulous
Oh
amount
yeah.
of supporting Gaunt, somewhere like 5 to 7 supporting Gaunt. Um, Here opposing you, and I think just because I like parody and reflection, I think there's fictionally there's 3 Black Oak Knights, and 5 Gaunt, give or take in any direction. Um, and one of the Black Oak Knights is actually Elia in disguise. but if you kill her, she's just gonna take a different body. Um, but that said, why don't we have that moment of uh so I think the group of you are just like I don't know why. I just imagine there's like an exterior platform that you can walk along the outside of the train, the engine, and then there are hatches. There's probably a hatch on top. There's a hatch on back that you can use to get inside the engine itself. But that's not where we find you. We find you guys there. But the Black Oak Knight who is now Elia, takes off her helmet. Um, and has this manic expression in her eyes because this is fun as fuck. Um and she says, "I knew you would be coming for this. Voyis, darling."
I think there is like just a tension that immediately comes over him. And I think he kind of positions himself like between Elia and the others. But I don't think he's like intimidating, but not necessarily threatening. I don't think he's like raising his sword at her or anything. And he just looks at her and says, "What do you want with it?"
With this, nothing. It's iron, it's steel and soot. I just wanted to see you again.
Just a jaw clench and says, "Don't lie." You used to be better at it.
If you want me to tell you my mistress's plans, this doesn't exactly feel like a candlelight dinner. Perhaps we should find some place with some wine involved.
Soon as I make it out alive.
Live is overrated. I can have you reanimated.
I wouldn't be able to stop you.
I like you more breathing.
I think he just glances away at that, doesn't have a response.
She's gonna like, she's hanging onto the side of this thing as well, or one hand on the railing at least, because these guys are OSHA compliant suddenly. Um, but yeah, she'll reach out and say, "Come with me, Voyis. I can protect you. The Legion can't."
It is not protection I need. But I think like as he says that, I think there's like this, like we're trying to get this thing ruined. And I think she maybe like looks like she's gonna fall and he reaches out to grab her and like push her back and then immediately pulls back like he didn't.
Part of me like wants to put dice on the table, but I'm like, what for? What do we stand to gain here? Other than uh she falls more in love with Voyas? I don't know. Or maybe she like gives up some information. There was a moment there where you're like, what do you want with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could I try a I don't have anything in consort or sway, unfortunately.
That doesn't mean you can't try. What are you afraid of happening here if you don't do well with sway?
I mean, I feel like the juicy reply is like she tells me something and it's a total lie that I absolutely buy. Like she feeds me wrong information that I'm gonna feed back um to the commander because, she wouldn't lie to me, not really. Like this is just a game. She totally still loves me. She's always loved me. It's fine. It's totally
Commander,
cool.
Commander, you have a fuck ton of intel. Let's put one of those intel on the line and say if this roll goes poorly on a 3 down, you'll get fed false information, which translates into a loss of 1 intel.
Yeah, let's do it.
But what do you, okay, so that's what's at risk.
What can we gain?
Yeah, what do you stand to gain
A
here?
single kiss, which is all he wants. No. Um, I guess she actually gives useful info or gives us something to use, not about her plans, but to use against the people here for our immediate situation.
Or yeah, or
Because I imagine she's kind of like this wild card. He's like, yeah, I don't fuck with these guys either. Whatever, blow them up. I don't care.
yeah, I mean she's not one of Ren Render's forces,
Hmm.
which is interesting that she's here on this site then. Um, I'm just wondering, like, what can we translate that into? Um, hmm, 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 hmm. I'm like, could that be a bonus die on an engagement roll coming up? Could that be uh hmm. How about this? Um, on a hit, on a 4 up, if you go on any supply missions, I will increase the roll, which determines the rewards. I will increase it by 1.
All
On
right.
a 6 up, I will increase the roll of the penalty as well, which reduces the penalties for failing the mission. How does that sound?
Sounds juicy. I'm in if the others are, because I will also affect all of them.
Cool. I'll have to like make a note of that, but we'll let's get dice on the table. Right now you're at 0 dice.
Zero
You
dice.
can push yourself for to make it 1 die.
But
Uh,
I would stress out.
okay, so you can't unless you want to trauma voice out.
I mean, I
Uh,
feel like trying him out and going for soft is really juicy right now because he literally is like, "Oh, I should kill you. Let me save you instead." But I'll
uh,
keep it for a resist because then
sure.
yeah. Okay.
Um, I feel like there might be like a consequence here as well, where it's like your fellow squad sees you clearly cavorting with at least a Black Oak Knight, if not the
They
Hex.
knew they saved me from her.
That's
They
true. Yeah,
knew.
they know who this is. Well, they might see you not killing her on sight and be
True.
like,
They might be like, "Oh, that's still going on. That's
yeah,
still a thing."
it's somebody's going to question your loyalty. Um, yeah, I think as a consequence, a fellow consequence on like a 3 down, uh, we're gonna like start a clock. That is like voice like your loyalty to the Legion is going to come into question. I'm not gonna have that be immediate, but that's gonna be a fellow consequence that we have to resist 2 things. Um, cool. Let's call it risky standard just because but I don't think there's a way to really like manipulate the outcome here to get more or
Hmm.
less stuff. Just to
Okay.
fill out the
Let's do it.
go for it. I don't know if anybody's in position to assist, like, but
I can't see it again. Roll 20. Come on now.
do you want me to spoil it for you?
Oh,
Yeah, is it bad?
It's bad. It's a 2. 2 and a 5, and you take the lower of. Um, so Commander, you're gonna lose 1 intel as she's gonna feed you,
I'll
she's gonna feed
resist
voice.
it.
Okay. What about the clock? That has your loyalty come into question.
No, that feels fair.
Okay, we're gonna do that at 4 o'clock, and I'm only gonna tick it up one at a time, but we're gonna start at 4 o'clock with 1 tick on it. Since roll 20 is being a butt, I can do that on your sheet for you. Um,
I'm back. Okay. I'm gonna trauma out. There's no way that I won't, but listen. For
so
love.
this would be a resolve resist. So Commander, you don't lose one intel then. But I will put a clock. It's a 4 o'clock.
Oh, I do you trauma out when you fill it or when you have to do one when you can't?
It is when you have to, and you cannot. So filling does
Okay, so
not.
I'm still good.
Okay,
I'm still good.
fantastic, fantastic. We are coming close to time, and we are not meeting for a while, so I want to wrap this mission up. So I need two things. I need fighting, and I need that rec roll. Fighting to again just sort of deal with the soldiers on board to buy Azure Soaring Wind the time and space he needs to turn this thing into the ravine. And then Azure Soaring Wind, we need the rec roll itself. Um, Voyis, I will say that you can participate in this any way that you want. If you want to, if we want this to be a group skirmish, that feels kind of appropriate, but I need a leader for it. I think Adrimir is actually in the best position to lead, unless we don't care about somebody stressing out.
You know what? I think I would like to lead it.
You really want to you want to
I think I do
you
want
want
to.
to
Yeah,
you
I
want to
want to get that.
trauma gray out. I see it.
Do
I see what's going on. Um,
easiest way to clear stress.
awesome. So Adrimir, are you participating as well?
Yeah, I'll fight.
Um, Azure, I'm gonna have you roll. You're not participating yourself, but I'm gonna have you roll one die for the Star Vipers that are not you. Um, actually, they're soldiers. They get two die. Um, yeah, full soldier squad. That's the other benefit they have. Um, Voyis, are you participating? This is a group skirmish.
I can't mark stress because of that, right?
Correct. All
Okay,
the stress
then
would
sure.
be gray.
Yeah.
But you
I'll
contribute to
stop
stress.
flirting for 5 seconds and actually fight, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Fantastic. Again, just for timing, I think we'll call this risky standard. I don't know what moving that would do unless we want to call it desperate. Um, I yeah, let's just call it risky standard. Um, yeah, give me risky standard skirmish. Oh, Jesus.
Ooh,
Fuck.
it's a skirmish, and I'm gonna push.
Oh, Lordy.
This is looking.
Oh, what the
Six, six,
A
six.
bizarre set of rolls. Jesus Christ.
And also I need a two die roll from the Star Vipers from Ben if you haven't already.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was the
you did.
tier
Okay,
two.
gotcha. All right, so a Grey Stalking Root, it's a crit.
Um,
I wish I
I
would have.
assume this is gonna take a moment to do the follow-up, but I do have to run, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, let's go ahead and set you up now.
Yeah.
Your rec, because the crit is going to be, it's going to be risky great.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's going to be controlled great. The crit means you're just in a much better position, to drive this thing in. So give me a risky, or sorry, a controlled great, rec. You can push yourself for dice or effect. Nobody's in position to assist.
Right.
Um,
I'll push. I'll max stress. Okay, let's go.
go for it.
Okay.
That's six. That's all you need. You do it.
Oh, whoops, I forgot to add the die. So can I
Uh,
then push?
do slash R 1d6.
Okay. Is it literally just
Slash
that?
R,
Yes.
yeah, 1d6.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. No crit. I don't know what I would do on a crit anyways.
Yeah.
Gray, you're taking 1 stress
Mhm.
for that group action. Does that trauma you out?
I think that traumas me out. Yep, that puts me over it.
Okay.
Oh
Big
shit.
star for this moment right here. That's a wild way to end the mission. I can't wait
Um,
to rewatch, like watch back the playback, but I do have to run. Happy holidays. Have a great new year.
Yeah.
Happy
Happy
holidays, Ben.
Next
holidays.
year.
Find out what happens soon. Bye.
Awesome. See ya. Um, all right. Well, okay, we know what the mission end looks like. Now let's make the fiction and the narrative make sense.
Mhm.
Somehow there's a Mad Max duel. Um, I guess we'll try. Uh, yeah, or just Adrimir, like, what do like narrate your part of the fight? I guess what's going to happen is like the Azure is going to like go and get on the controls, and people are going to try and stop him. And like, what do you do to like keep him safe?
I think we just see Adrimir with his fine pistol and black shot and his axe in his other hand, just doing the opposite of medic work.
Mhm.
Awesome. Voyis, how do you contribute?
I think it's just like a wall. Like I think he's just positioned himself like in front of Azure and there's like the towering shield. There's just him just full armor. And I think we see like several like just the blows are just glancing off of it. He's like that dagger still sticking out. And I think because it's the end, there's like one kill where you will actually like I think they've like overpowered in hands against the like against a wall and he will get like one hand loose, pull the dagger out, and just like jam it through a throat.
Nice.
Now, Gray, according to the dice rolls here, your stress is coming from the Star Vipers.
Yeah.
We already put Kirish in danger, and I don't want to do that every single time. Let's say it was Kole, no, Zaya, no. Let's say Nazim. Like Nazim is about to get killed by a Black Oak Knight. How do
Mhm.
you save him and like how is it stressful to you in a way that like your trauma kicks in?
Yeah. So it's too close quarters for the rifle.
Hmm.
There is a reason that Grey Stalking Root prefers to kill from a distance. I brought a hand weapon. It is a not large but very sharp knife. And when Grey Stalking Root gets into hand-to-hand combat with that, especially when he's defending a squad mate, he just kind of reds out, and it gets vicious. Bam. And that's what it like. There's just like the screen goes black, and then waking up covered in Black Oak Knight insides.
I think you're actually going to wake up on the ground because when you trauma out,
Yeah.
your vision goes dark, and I think you become sort of catatonic, non-responsive.
Yeah.
But here's the problem: you have a train barreling towards a ravine,
Mm-hmm.
which means a dismount has to occur. Adrimir or Voyis, which one of you notices Grey Stalking Root has shut down and is, if you do nothing, going down with the ship?
I, regardless of who notices, I assume it's Adrimir with the good shoulders who could actually just sling them over his shoulder.
I'm
And
down
it
with that.
feels like Voyis might be distracted.
Yeah, he's got someone else to protect. I mean, what? It's cool. It's fine. Don't question it.
Yeah. So you're all going to be doing a moving dismount from this thing and probably doing the tuck and roll into the grass. Voyas, do you let Elia go down with the ship, knowing she'll just move to another body?
No. I think it's like he knows that it doesn't matter, but I think that one time he killed her, I think it really fucked him up. I think he was like, no, that was horrible. I thought I could do it, but oh boy, was I very, very wrong. So I think he like, yells her name a few times and she's probably like laughing. She doesn't care. But
Mm.
I think he will like pull her off and like use his body to like do like tuck her behind the shield to do like the combat body roll. And I think like when he gets up, like maybe he like looks for Gray and when he looks back, she's already gone.
I like that. What token of her affection did she leave behind?
Hmm.
I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask
Yes, someone
Marker
else.
Ben. What
Mm.
what what token of affection when Voyis like comes to or turns away for a moment, she does the Batman farewell. But like she leaves something behind. What is it?
I think she it's a palm print on your like on the side of your neck where she was holding you. It's like it's not a burn, but like something happened.
A magic hickey.
Yeah, magic
Like
hickey.
she sort of cauterized the wound, but like
Yeah, something like some.
sweetly.
Yeah, something happened there.
I feel like I should give you a corruption for that. When you get marked by the undead, like that normally means corruption.
That's totally cool. I've got a reliquary.
Fine.
I knew you would do this to me.
Uh, fine.
Maybe that's why she left, because she felt it.
Yeah, yeah. At some point the reliquary shows and we just see her like, do the flinch, if this was a different genre, she'd do the vampire hiss. But fantastic. And so we see the Iron Demon go careening into the ravine. Satisfying explosion. Uh we look back to see Render like fighting a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And he might actually have like I picture Render like doing the grasping of the jaws
Mm.
and like holding open the horned one's teeth. And in fact, he gets leverage on her and just like full body yeets this Tyrannosaurus Rex onto her side to where we see a T-Rex go skidding across the sands. And it's at this point we see that explosion go up, and both Render and the Horned One sort of like the Horned One kind of gets back on her feet, and they both look over in the direction. And just as uh Elia had done the Batman goodbye, I think when Render looks back to where this Tyrannosaurus was, he just sees this cloud of bats go flying back away towards the direction of actually she flies in the direction of Fort Calisco, because the whole point of this was that Render is going to move his forces and wow, so yeah, I think she does. I think she flies in the direction of the forest. Render calls and moves his forces
Mm.
over to investigate the explosion, and under the cover of night we see the Legion moving into Fort Calisco. Under the cover of night, Voyis, Grey Stalking Root, Adrimir, and the Star Vipers will find their own quiet route inside. um And that is today's session and mission. Congratulations. We will do rewards at the top of next session, only because we're just close to time. So we will go ahead and move into Starsies and Wishes.
Before we do that, so that I don't
Oh,
forget, I'm going to use field dressing on anyone with a level 2 or 3 harm. I have 3 uses of it. Just give yourself a tick of healing if you have one of those.
I am all good.
let me check Azure. Azure did not take any harm.
I did, and I marked it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Fantastic. Thank you for that reminder. I'm going to do that anytime that Adrimir is in a mission. So just
Um,
remind me.
Do we want to do XP as well?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we have time to do XP. Jazzy, talk to me about Voyis.
Yes. Did you make out with no? Every time you roll a desperate action, I have done that. Okay. Um, if you survive the mission, yes. If I help my squad through might or fortitude, I would say so. If you brought into play your heritage, yes, both my like resistings, and the fact that the corruption of the living god pissed me and Adrimir off. And the highest threat that was we faced was
Thor.
nice.
Technically, you did not face, even though he was on screen over there. Render was, but Irag the Flayed was present in the scene, and he is a threat 4. Uh, thank you. Mark, talk to me about Grey Stalking Roots.
Yeah, survived the mission. Definitely had a key shot in there. Used both heritage and got a trauma. And then
Yes.
+4, so that's 8.
Awesome. And yes, marking the trauma itself does count for XP, which it looks like you already picked yours. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, vicious. That is something that was probably just under the surface, waiting for an opportunity to come up when he was killing someone from closer than 100 feet away.
I love that. Fuck yeah. Is there like we'll talk about it back at camp, about like, visual or attitude changes that people notice. Adrimir, talk to me.
Survived the mission, helped squad through medical knowledge, and also brought into play the heritage. And the 4 for threat is 7.
Fantastic.
I think I'm just going to dump it all into my skills and take chemist finally.
Ooh. Fun. All right. Anything else before we move into Stars Wishes that I have forgotten because I'm good at this game?
I'm taking Survivor and getting myself another trauma slot.
Nice. Now you get the trauma and you get the extra XP anytime you mark it. Fantastic. Stars and Wishes.
That was a lot of fun. Really great shape of session, like ramping up from the infiltration to the chaos to the boss fight on the train. Super stellar GM pacing stuff. It was great to see everyone's like everyone's stuff come out. It was really cool to see Azure like really step up and do a lot for not a rookie, a soldier, I guess. Always good to have some Voyis drama in there as well. And yeah, just Adrimir being a badass all around good. Which is, yeah, I'm curious to see how Grey's trauma exhibits going forward, because he's been pretty cool so far and probably gonna be less so from now on.
I'll go. It was fun to see. Yeah, this felt like a good mid-season finale before we take a small break, and we got some big action set pieces. Got to see. I think seeing the scale of power that the enemies have is cool. Like we've always kind of fought very lower fantasy kind of fights, but now big fucking train mortar monster thing. Clearly, we are very much out of our depth, and so it's cool when we get these wins against something like that. Star for T-Rex, the Horned One, and then just yeah, getting to see her get thrown makes Render even more scary. The drama with Elia and Voyis, of course. I mean, I none of it was surprising, but it still hit effectively. And I'm looking forward to seeing the consequences of that develop at camp. And same with Gray, getting to see the evolution of the character in a reasonably bad way makes sense, and it'll be fun to see how that goes. And yeah, I think I had good fun tossing out ideas for how to approach this and things we could do. And we didn't steal this demon train, but maybe next one.
Next one.
I believe in us and our abilities to steal demon trains. Yeah, star for the Ben who isn't here. It was really fun to see this other side of Azure and to see him, yeah, really step up. I like that, like the impatience and like twitchy attitude was still there, but then because of all the violence that was going on, there was like a purpose to it, which I thought was very fascinating. Like now it's in the proper environment, it feels like good and helpful. That he wants to just blow shit up. Um, that was really cool. Mark, you had some really creative suggestions, like to shoot for like distractions and like call the patrol to your attention and split off. I also absolutely loved your just like insistence to trauma out because you were like, this is the moment, this is when we do it. And I think it's a very interesting one to pick where you like tie it in with the story, which like gives me the vibe almost that like Gray has been kind of like checking himself in that way where he's like, I will deliberately do something that isn't gonna draw this part of myself out, which implies to me then that he doesn't like this part.
Yeah.
But now it is out and now it is unleashed. And I'm very interested to see how they will react to that and how that's going to change and drive their story forward. And for Adrimir, um, yeah, I think you Adrimir was a bit more of a supporting one, but I loved you just being so ready to be like, oh, kill a rookie, not on my watch, or a soldier, not on my watch. I dare you. And your suggestions. I do hope you get to steal a demon train. And I really liked your little detail of Adramir fighting along Voyis because of the living god that was like disrespected in that way. That was a very fun or like poignant insight in like a short, in a brief way to give that. And to Kevin, yeah, obviously bringing Elia back in is always fun. I'm glad we got T-Rex, the Hornet one. That was pretty cool. And I hate the Flayed. What a gross little man. Like, absolutely hate everything about that. Um, no, that was really cool. Um, yeah, and I think especially at the end we got some interesting consequences there that wasn't just, I mean, like harm and stuff makes sense. But there were some very interesting consequences that you offered to kind of shake that up a little bit. Wishes, yeah, I guess just see the fallout to what happens, see what Elia said to the missions. And um yeah, I don't have I think like any like particular actionable.
No, actually, I'll say that getting specific information of what Elia told Voyis, especially because now the kind of pressure's off because it's not taking one intel away, nor is it really adding any mechanical benefit. So I have sort of free reign to be like what she said. But also free reign is also a little sometimes too open, but I'll figure something out. Something maybe fun and juicy about uh I might just like give like an intel question, but have you pick it instead of the commander and see if there's anything juicy there. Um, maybe that'll be, yeah, Jazzy, if you want to look through the commander's intel questions, maybe that'd be a good like prompt to see like if there's something that she might have told. Um, if there's something there that feels juicy and reaches out to you, let me know. And if not, maybe I'll just look through them and see if there's anything fun that I can just sort of give away for funsies. But in the meantime, yeah, stars to just to I feel like I'm trying to meet this game on its terms sometimes, which sometimes feels like petting a cat the wrong direction. In terms of like presenting obstacles, but also reflecting the scope and scale of a situation, and that sometimes feels like it makes things very narrow in terms of their applications. But I feel like every time a challenge came up, basically up until where it was like we got to go loud, guys. I feel like you guys took the story in ways that I feel like were not what I had kind of envisioned, but everything still kind of worked in the end. And in fact, I feel like the decision to go with things sideways feels very the Horned One, like this is a Horned One campaign, whereas Zora, if you were to do this with the Zora chosen, she'd be like, why the fuck didn't you guys go through the front door? That is the most direct route. That is the easiest way to do things. But you don't have the you don't have Zora, you have the Horned One. But this feels very appropriate to that sort of idea. It does make things very interesting when you have somebody like a heavy armor, um, in an assault mission, and we're doing Metal Gear Solid for 2/3 of it. And that's just a weird quirk of having different people come in with different loads and different ideas for how to approach objectives like that. But in that sense, Star, that I'm glad everybody did get a chance to shine. We still got to see Voyis do heavy metal shit. We got to see Grey Stalking Root do sniper shit, but also it's fun to see people do things that they do well, but it's also then fun to see them in positions of discomfort and dealing with those situations. So really, like, I like that we got to see Grey Stalking Root in both close quarters combat and in his element. We got to see Adrimir do medic shit, but also do the opposite of medic shit. Um, we got to see Voyis do sneaky shit, but we also got to see Voyis do heavy metal shit. And so that was all really fun. And yeah, and you guys just brought really creative solutions to the obstacles as presented. But also just started this table for discussing a lot of it and making sure that everyone is like sort of taken care of that way. So that was nice. And I still got my train chase, which is what I was hoping for. Uh, Also, yeah, stars to Elia, stars to you guys coming up with T-Rex Horned One. That was all you. I just ran with it. Um Wishes. I hope we get to make Fort Calisco feel like a living place. Uh I don't know how exactly with the tools that the game gives. But uh to make it more than just a backdrop or a dot on the map. Fort Calisco is a really cool place. And I hope we get a chance to sort of explore that, whether that's through missions taken here or uh just uh I don't know, scenes. We already have a few proper named characters. Um but yeah, that's my wish and my intention. So I think that's what I got. But we'll go ahead and stop the recording there. And I hope you all have happy holidays. And because we're not going to be together for a few weeks, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just post random shit about Fort Calisco in the chat. I don't know, to keep us reminding who we are and where we are. But I'll figure
Maybe
something.
I'll just start writing love letters to Elia. You don't know. You can
Oh
stop
shit.
me.
Maybe you might get love letters from Elia.
I
Wouldn't that
think
be
you mean
wild?
maybe you'll start sharing the love letters you've already written.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who
Uh,
knows? We're doing side scenes now.
Side scenes could be fun. I mean, yeah, that could be fun to do. But until we figure that all out, I hope you all have fantastic holidays. I hope you get everything you desire. Uh, and I hope to see you all in the new year for Fort Calisco. Till then, have a good one, guys.
Thanks very much. Bye.